I like to say activity does not equal productivity. You've probably gotten to the end of your day and you look back and you're like, what in the world did I accomplish today? I was busy all day. I was doing stuff all day, but what did I actually get done? Because let's face it, there are a lot of things that we do that aren't productive. We do a lot of low impact, high involvement tasks, but they're not actually moving your business forward. Hi, I'm Chris LeBrun, your host of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. As someone who's never been afraid of dreaming big and going for it all, I often find myself with a lot on my plate. I'm a husband and father, a nonprofit fundraiser, and an entrepreneur. What I've realized is my view of productivity was pretty toxic. After decades of believing that in order to do more, you had to work harder, I began to see productivity as this beautiful thing. Holistic productivity is the idea that you can accomplish your professional, personal, and purpose-driven goals in a healthy way, and doing so will make you happier and more fulfilled. Join me each week as we break down myths about productivity, share practical tips for maximizing your time, energy, and focus, and hear from others about their productivity journey. This is the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here for episode number 3 of the Wholistic Productivity Podcast. My name is Chris LeBrun. So glad that you are spending this time with me. You know, my hope for this show is that you will hear something that is transformative. Now, often that doesn't have to be this big thing that changes your life. Transformation can come from small changes that have a big impact over time. And I think that's what holistic productivity and the podcast can offer. So just glad that you are here and hope that you are finding that thing that you can implement. Today, we are going to talk about 3 myths of productivity. These are things that you have probably heard throughout your life that you, whether you realized it or not, a lot of times these things can just creep in and change the way that we think or feel. The fact is that when we believe these myths, productivity can be pretty toxic. A lot of these ideas about productivity come from a place that isn't very healthy. If we want to ditch this idea of toxic productivity, we have to address and debunk the myths that lead to us thinking that way. So let's dive in here. Myth number 1, productivity means working harder and doing more. Now, this is probably one of those things that you have heard from your boss at one time or another. Maybe it's you have a big account that you're trying to land and we need everybody to stay late. Or we want to save money right now, so we're not going to replace employees that leave. We're all just going to pitch in and pick up the slack. This can be fine short term, but believe me, it is not sustainable. There are not enough hours in the day for you to do that, and you can compromise quality by adding more quantity. Let me say that again. Your quality can suffer when we add more to our plate. Because we believe this myth, we see it play out at home as well. We think we can just roll up our sleeves and work harder and get more done. But there comes a point when our bodies and our minds say enough. We see this toxic trait in our use of paid time off or PTO. There was a 2024 study done by Sorbet, and I'll put the link in the show notes for this, but they found that 62% of Americans don't use all of their time off. 62%. Where do you fall into that number? Do you use it all every year? 5.5% didn't take a single day off in 2023. They didn't use any of their PTO. They also found that each employee holds nearly $3,000 of accrued and unused PTO. And that adds up nationally here in the US to $312 billion with a B of PTO liability, $312 billion in unused PTO. That has increased 15% since 2017. Why aren't you using your paid time off, people? This is crazy. Now, I'll admit, I used to believe this myth as well. I would be stressed out, again, from things that were happening at work, projects that were piling up. And my mother-in-law would say to me, you just need to take some time off. And I would refuse to believe her or listen to her. I'm sorry. Because I thought that I had too much to do. And if I took any more time off, I would just get further behind. But that is absolutely incorrect. Now I know differently. We need to take that time off. That's when we rest and recharge and our brain gets back to functioning correctly. I have a theory out there actually that we need more PTO if we want to be more productive. Now, again, there's that whole argument of self-care and refresh and regenerating our mind and our body. But think about this. It's the last couple days leading up before your vacation. And I bet that is when you get the most done. You are trying to get everything checked off your list so that you can go and be on holiday. So I've made the argument to my HR director that if we want more productivity, we need to have more vacation time, because again, people are going to be more productive in those days leading up to vacation. It's sort of a joke, but not really. There is a lot of truth to that. Again, taking that time off is so valuable. It is so beneficial. So please don't be like the 5.5% that didn't take any time off in 2023. Make sure you're taking your PTO. Now, here's the truth that counteracts that myth. Productivity means being more intentional. Working harder only leads to burnout and frustration. So what we need is to be intentional. And that's what holistic productivity is all about. It's about working smarter before we start working harder. I have a friend at work who has chosen the word systems as his word for 2024. Now, I love this because he understands that he needs to have a system to be intentional about reaching his goals. He needs that systematic approach to reaching his goals. And this is why so many of our New Year's resolutions fail. I've talked about this before, because we don't have a plan for how we're going to fill in the blank with your New Year's resolution. If we're going to lose 20 pounds, we don't know how we're going to add time in the gym into our already busy day. We don't know what we're going to replace all that junk food that we eat while we're watching the game. We don't have a plan. We're not intentional. And so we fail to reach our goals. Now, this is something that we're going to cover in future episodes, creating a goal roadmap. Stay tuned for those. But being intentional also includes planning our week. Another episode we'll look at what I call Sunday strategy. This is planning out our week so that we know what we're going to do. Another part of being intentional is doing the right things. And that leads us into myth number 2, which is busyness equals productivity. We try to convince ourselves that if we are doing something, anything, that we are being productive. I like to say activity does not equal productivity. You've probably gotten to the end of your day and you look back and you're like, what in the world did I accomplish today? I was busy all day. I was doing stuff all day, but what did I actually get done? Because let's face it, there are a lot of things that we do that aren't productive. We do a lot of low impact, high involvement tasks. What does that look like for entrepreneurs? Well, there's accounting, there's social media, there is all the back end side of your business that you have to worry about to be compliant with the state, with the government. All of these things We have to do them, but they're not actually moving your business forward. If you're a 9 to 5 employee, you have the same thing. You have meetings, you have reports, you have, your weekly session with the boss. And again, not that these things are bad, but they don't necessarily move the needle forward. These are maintenance tasks. I like to call them maintenance tasks. They have to be done, but maybe they don't have to be done by us. We'll talk more about that in future episodes as well. If you've listened to anything about productivity in the last, 10, 15 years, you've probably heard about David Allen's Getting Things Done, or GTD. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. There's a lot in the GTD model that is really good. But one thing I want to talk about here is what he calls the 2-minute rule. The 2-minute rule says, if it will take less than 2 minutes, just do it immediately so that you don't put it on your to-do list. Now, I agree with this to a point, because let's play this out, okay? If you put all of those things on your to-do list, you're going to have like 100 things there, and you're going to look at it and it's going to stress you out just to see all of those things there. But on the flip side, I could spend 3 hours doing 100 different 2-minute tasks that are all these maintenance tasks that don't actually have any impact on my business. So I think it's good advice, but we just have to balance it out a little bit so that we're not overdoing those 2-minute activities. The truth is, for myth number 2, that priorities equal productivity. Our priorities equal productivity. One of the reasons that we are not productive is because we don't set priorities. You'll look at your list of 10 things to do, but you've never said which one is the most important. So how do you know where to start? How do you know what you need to do first in order to be successful? Figure out what you have to do that has the biggest impact and do more of that, and do less of what doesn't have impact. You've probably heard of Pareto's principle, or maybe the 80-20 rule, same thing. The rule says this: 20% of your work has 80% of the impact. I know that this is true for me in fundraising. I have 20% of my donors that bring in probably 80% of the dollars that I raise. Now, the opposite is also true. 80% of the work that we do has only 20% of the impact. So naturally, we want to do more of that 20% that has 80% of the impact, and less of the 80% that only has 20% of the impact. I'll give you another example here. I have a Lego reselling business, and I can tell you that what makes money for me is when I put minifigs on eBay. When I put, a little Lego minifigure on eBay for sale, that makes money. Now, there's a lot of other things I have to do that don't make me money. These are maintenance tasks. It's sorting Lego. It's, working with my inventory, organizing things, all important things. But what I need to prioritize is putting these guys up for sale. That needs to be the first thing that I do every time that I am working in my Lego business, because those are the things that are going to bring money. Now, obviously, we can't not do some of our maintenance tasks. Again, you can't not do your accounting, or you can't not have some meetings, but understand that this is not what moves your business forward. And you need to figure out how you can minimize those things so that you can spend more time doing the things that will help you reach your goal, that will make you move forward. So now let's look at myth number 3, and that is that happiness comes from achieving our professional goals. I know so many people who find just a huge part of their self-worth in their personal work. And men, I'm going to call us out. This is especially true for us. Women, I think, struggle with it as well, but probably not as often as men. We find our self-worth a lot of times, too many times, in the things that we do in our job. And the result of that is we are willing to sacrifice our families and our personal life, chasing the next project, chasing the next promotion. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be proud of our work. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do our best. But I am saying that there is so much more to life than just work. I heard a coworker say just a few months ago, in life, there are times when you're going to disappoint someone, so make sure it's the right someone. He's talking about missing those ball games and those dance recitals over being in the office for something that is just too important to miss. Now, I used to travel for work a lot. I was on the road just about every other week. And I loved travel. I loved what I did. But I knew I was missing things at home. And that was it was what was needed at that time, but I hated that aspect of the job. And again, I think we have to keep this in balance, because truth number 3 is that happiness comes from achieving all of our goals, from being balanced, from having that holistic approach to our life. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have goals outside of work. This is one of those fundamental aspects of holistic productivity, that happiness and satisfaction and fulfillment comes from that balance in life, where we're achieving goals in every area of life: professional, personal, and purpose-driven. If you missed episode 2, go back and listen to it. The link is in the show notes. But we talked about that in episode 2. Life falls out of balance when you're only focused on success in one area of life. Now, I get it. Not everybody wants to have a side business. Not everybody wants to work outside of their professional life. But you probably have personal goals, and these are just as important as our professional goals, if not more important. We rationalize that I need to prioritize work because it puts a roof over my family. And again, that is correct. But if you're struggling with your weight, that can have an impact on your self-esteem. If you are worried about getting out of debt, that causes stress and takes away some of your confidence. We were not made to be purely professional people. We were made to be balanced, and our success in reaching goals needs to reflect that. So make sure that you are focused on success in every area of your life. And again, holistic productivity can help you do that. So there you go. Let's recap these 3 myths and the truths behind them. Myth number 1, you have to work harder to be more productive. We know that is not true. You don't have to work harder. You have to work smarter. You have to be intentional about what you do. Myth number 2, busyness equals productivity. Again, remember what I say? Activity doesn't equal productivity. Figure out what makes the biggest impact on your business, on your goals, in your family. Wherever that goal is, figure out what has the biggest impact and do more of that. Make those your priority. Myth number 3, happiness only comes when you are achieving your professional goals. The truth behind that one is we are the happiest when we are achieving goals in every area of our life: professional, personal, and purpose-driven. It's that balance that brings the true happiness. Okay? So there you go, 3 myths and 3 truths. Thank you for listening. Again, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. That means you will get the show delivered every time that it comes out. If you enjoyed this, I would love for you to go in on your favorite platform and rate the show. Let others know about it. Let them know why you like it. If you don't like it, let me know, but let others know why you like it. It's just a huge help for us. Also, share it with a friend. We'd love for you to bring friends to the show if they can benefit from this. You can find us on any social media platform, basically at Wholistic Productivity. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, LinkedIn, YouTube. Find us there. And make sure you check out the show notes at holisticproductivity.com/3. A lot of great resources in this episode. Want you to check those out on the website as well. In the next episode, we are starting a series on some of the fundamentals of holistic productivity. We'll take a deep dive one at a time into each part of the system. I don't want you to miss that. Make sure you are there. So subscribe and follow the show. As always, my hope for this show is that it helps you dream big, plan smart, and live fully.